afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Channel 23's Faces of Carlsbad. Coming to you from beautiful Carlsbad, New Mexico, and this is a program where you will meet people that you've never met before or people that you've known for many years. And we try to make it so that you will be enjoyed by just watching this interview. Not me, but the people we interview. Don't forget that. And today we're very, very pleased to have Mike. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mike Antiporda.
See, Antiporda. That's a good name.
It works.
It works.
It works. It's not very common, but it works.
No, that's great. Well, tell us a little bit about your family background, going all the way back to your wonderful grandparents.
Oh, goodness. Well, that's a ways back, actually. My grandparents, two of my grandparents were living in the Philippines. And my father was born in the Philippines, and so they since passed away, but I had the opportunity as a young child to visit them at least once when they were both alive.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw my grandmother one other time later on. And then on the other side of my family, on my mother's side, my grandparents were actually around all the time growing up. We lived in New York when I was born, and we moved to Carlsbad in 1979, and they moved with us. And so they were here as well. And my grandfather in particular was of Irish heritage, which surprises people considerably that I have any bit of Irish in me at all, because I don't really look it. But I do, and their last name is McInerney. So a good Irish last name.
My grandmother was born in Ireland. Her name was Walsh. Yeah.
We could be related.
We could,
Far back.
Absolutely.
You could be a cousin.
Yes, absolutely. And your grandparents on your father's side in the Philippines, I've been to Manila. That's in the Philippines, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get these cities all mixed up, but did he suffer through that Japanese occupation and the war in that area?
They did live there during that time. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that must have been a horrible, horrible situation for them to have to put up with the bombing and the machine guns and all these, the fighting on all sides. How did they manage to survive in one piece?
Well, you know, they weren't right in Manila. They were further north than Manila, and so I never had any discussions with him. His English was not very good, so I didn't have a lot of discussions about the circumstances during that time.
Yeah.
But I know, you know, my dad was a young child at that time, and I think that it probably does shape you in some way. And I think when you go through times like that, you're more appreciative of peaceful times.
Yes.
And all that brings.
But now you could speak with the Irish accent. But that would make people open up their eyes, right?
Oh, probably so. Yes.
And so eventually, though, you ended up in New York, New York City.
I was born there in New York.
Or in the Bronx or Manhattan?
Actually, out on Long Island.
Oh, in Long Island.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a beautiful area to grow up in too, isn't it?
So it was. It's been a long time though.
Do you have any happy memories of New York, though?
Oh, certainly I do, yeah. Even though we weren't really part of the big New York City scene, even though we weren't that far from it, but you know, the neighborhood was kind of central at that point in your life as a kid, and we used to be able to ride our bikes and go to the park at the school and things like that, and really didn't think about a lot of the things that we are more concerned about even today.
Yeah.
In small cities like this, you know, it was a little bit of a different time back then, but lots of good memories.
Did you ever get to New Jersey?
I believe I did once or twice.
Mm-hmm. No, my dad was born in Paterson, New Jersey. He was one of those solid Easterners, you know.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't. I was a Midwesterner. So anyway, your parents then they decided to move where?
Well, you know, they were living in New York for quite some time, and I think they were somewhat interested in getting outside of New York in a little smaller area, and so lo and behold, we wind up moving out here to Carlsbad, New Mexico. So,
what drew him to New Mexico? That's fascinating.
He had a colleague. My dad was a physician here in town, and he had a colleague that he knew back in New York who had moved out here several years prior, and they were looking for a general surgeon.
Oh.
And so he gave him a call and said, hey, you know, they're looking for a general surgeon out here. Would you be interested? And so he flew out to take a look, and the rest is history.
Well, so he was a surgeon. That's fantastic. And did you get into the field of medicine too?
Not even close. No, no, that wasn't my thing. I'd leave that to professionals, but no, that wasn't my area.
Well, that's basically the same with me. My dad was a railroader. He was a section foreman on the Erie Railroad back in Ohio, and he could handle anything. He could build anything. He built his own home from the cellar up, except for the electricity, which in Ohio you had to have a specialist come in for that. And he called me up one day and he said, "Help me on this roof." And I got up there and started hammering something into the roof of the building, and the nail went in crookedly. And he said, "No, that's enough. Get on. Take care of something else in the kitchen." So I was fired from that job. Yeah, it was a total.
But lucky for us, because look at all the other great things you did.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, what did you do as you got through high school, and what did you become interested in?
Well, I went to high school was very interesting. One of my teachers was Jed Howard, who a lot of people know here locally.
Oh, Jed
from
Howard,
my government
yes.
class. Yes,
Oh.
and he really triggered an interest for me in government and things like that. And so I went off to New Mexico State University, and I majored in government and got a couple of degrees, and then I'm still fascinated in it. Don't necessarily work in it, but I'm still fascinated by it. So.
Oh, Jed Howard, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Mike, but he is so well known in the history of this city and this county.
Yes, phenomenal work that he's done.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Preserving our history here in the community.
And you're carrying this tradition on.
No, I don't think anybody carries on traditions like that. He's still very much in charge of doing that, and we're very fortunate.
Yeah.
So
what was the first major job that you got involved in here in Carlsbad?
Well, after college, I wound up coming back here and working at the Carlsbad Environmental Monitoring and Research Center. It was a brand new organization at the time, so there was a very small staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked there for a couple of years on the administrative side, and then moved over to another WIP-related contract, working in support of the WIP project.
Oh, I see.
And I was there for the duration of that contract, and then wound up moving over to what at the time was Westinghouse, who had the management operating contract for the site.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed with them until 2014. So in total, I worked on WIP-related projects for over 21 years.
What drew you to that? What was so fascinating about the WIP organization?
Well, it's interesting about WIP. I didn't have the scientific background or the background in anything nuclear when I started, but I was doing a lot of communications work in public affairs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the part of that job that was so much fun was that everybody really had a passion for what we were doing. It wasn't just that we were there getting our paycheck, but we had this mission that had implications for not just our area, but for the nation and the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was one of the most exciting parts, is to be part of that and see so many of the exciting things that happened.
Wow, that's amazing. And Westinghouse pulled out, didn't they, eventually?
No, it was a series of mergers and buyouts, and so the name changed a lot over the years. And actually, even the current company still has ties to that original Westinghouse company.
Westinghouse.
Yes.
And what is it called now, basically?
Nuclear Waste Partnership.
Nuclear Waste Partnership. My goodness. But you got out of it eventually.
I did, and it was a bit of a surprise. I didn't expect to leave there. I thought I was going to retire there because I loved my job.
Mm-hmm.
But I had an opportunity come up that was just too good to pass up, and I was excited about it. So I decided I'd step outside of my comfort zone a little bit and try something new.
Well, you are like those early day explorers. You try anything that's exciting.
I'm not that bold, no.
Well, anyway, what drew you out?
Well, I had the opportunity to become the executive director at the Carlsbad Community Foundation, and there have only been two other gentlemen in that spot previously, John Mills and Jim Harrison, both of who I think the world of, and it was an exciting opportunity to get involved and step into that role, so I did.
Well, that's interesting. John Mills, I knew him. He was a very nice man. But he passed away, didn't he, a number of years ago?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, he was a fine gentleman. And you mentioned Jim Harrison. That name rings a bell.
Yeah.
I think he was an ex-student of mine.
He may have been.
Yes, at Sunset School years ago. And he told me he was leaving. He was moving to, I think, South Carolina or one of the southern states to be close to his...
Georgia. Yeah, he's
Georgia.
in Georgia, close to family and
Yeah.
enjoying it.
Yeah. But you took over, so we've got 3 terrific guys running that foundation. So what do you do at the foundation? What's the main job of the foundation?
Well, the foundation is a nonprofit, and what we do is we manage funds that are established because people in this area are very generous, and they often will donate money for these funds that are what we call endowments, and they're permanent funds. So the money is invested, and then the money that's earned off of that, we're able to use it for needs here in the community. And especially what our point is to provide long-term support for a lot of the nonprofit organizations. And also we have a tremendous number of scholarships that we're able to offer for our students so that the young people in the community have some assistance as they go off to college. And so we're involved in so many different aspects of the community, and that was the real draw for me, being able to be involved with so many great groups that help so many people in this town.
Absolutely. Well, I admire your courage because not many men would leave a job that was paying well to try something different, and I really admire that.
Oh well, thanks. It was a tricky decision to make, really, because I really did like what I was doing, and when I was first asked about it, my first response was, "No, I'm not looking for a job." And but when I started to think about it more and think about the impact on people here, both today and over the long term, it kind of got stuck in my head, and I'm very fortunate that it turned out the way it did.
Well, you know, Guy Lettman, he had that desire too. He applied to be one of those men out in space. Yeah, and it was unbelievable. But the closer he got to it, he decided, no, he'd better stick with television. I thought that was nice.
Well, it's good for television, though.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I know you're busy all the time. What is it, usually 7 days a week?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah. What do you do in your spare time to just kind of relax?
Well, you know, my family lives here, too. My wife and I have 3
yes, I wanted to talk about your
boys.
family, yeah.
Yeah, and so my wife and my kids are very involved in things in school and other organizations. So we manage to keep ourselves pretty busy most of the time.
And what do they like to do? You have 3 sons, you said.
I do. I do.
That's a nice family.
Thank you.
Boy, oh boy. We might even interview them in the next 20 years, huh? Oh, I won't be around then. I'm too old for that.
Oh, I think you will be.
Okay. So do you take trips to visit different areas of the country?
Occasionally, yeah. Yeah,
Where-
we've taken several road trips. At one point or the other, we've driven from coast to coast. So
Wow.
we've driven to Florida to visit my family there, including my parents who live there now.
Oh, they live there now.
They do. We've driven out to California. We've driven all the way up around, all the way up to Yellowstone and to the. We passed into Montana just briefly. And
Beautiful state. You should go back again.
Yes.
Montana's
the
a very
whole
good-
area was beautiful. Yellowstone.
Yeah.
It was a great trip. Great trip.
Well, that's
So-
fantastic. Where in Florida do your parents live?
They live in the Tampa area.
Yeah, I have a daughter and son-in-law and 2 grandsons that live in Orlando.
But that's not far.
Yeah,
Not far
that's
at all.
right. Oh my gosh! And Tampa's got a lot of sports going on too. They've got I think a football team and a hockey team, and they're well endowed with entertainment. That's what it's all
Lots
about.
to do.
That's
Lots
right.
to do.
So anyway, do you do any reading at all?
You know, most of my reading is local news articles and online news and things like that. But
You're just too busy. That's the problem right there. You're just too busy.
yeah, I don't typically sit down and sit still long enough to actually read a book, an entire book or fiction. But I usually hit the quick things and read the current affairs as much as I can. It goes back to Jed Howard's influence and interest.
And you're interested in the history, I would imagine, of Carlsbad.
It's fascinating. There's a lot to learn. So,
well, there was recently a book published by Donna Birchall, I think, called The Wicked Women of New Mexico. And I had the pleasure of reading it, and I thought, my goodness, I didn't realize things were that nasty in those days, back in the 1800s.
Oh, really?
Oh, my gosh. And then the way that these guys these cowboys would come in, and many of them were nothing more than just plain old-time gangsters. And they would shoot up the town and shoot at each other. And I thought, oh, my gosh. That's probably why I mentioned book reading, because I read a lot of books. I love to read. But one of them I read every year. I never miss it, and that's Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And I try to get a better attitude about life in general by reading that book. My wife says it hasn't worked at all, but we'll see. Anyway.
I think it has. I think it has.
So what's in the future for Mike?
Well, you never know, do you?
No.
You just never really know. I think you stay open to the possibilities and you go from there. But right now, I'm pretty happy with the way things are going right now. The family's doing well, and the job is going well, and we're making good progress. And so I'm pretty happy with the direction things are going.
You get a lot of support in the foundation, don't you?
Tremendous support,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Now, where was your wife? Where was she born?
Now, my wife is actually originally from right here in Carlsbad. She grew up here, and so has lived all her life here. So she's happy that we're still in this area too.
So you came from the East and married a New Mexico lady. I came from the Midwest and married a New Mexico lady. Boy, they've really trained us well, haven't they?
Yeah, we stayed, didn't we?
Yes, absolutely. So what ages are they? What grades are they in school now?
My oldest is a 9th grader. He's at the high school this year. And then I have one son at the 6th grade academy. And then my youngest son is in elementary school.
What school is that?
Monterey.
Monterey. Oh, boy. Well, I never taught at Monterey, but I did Sunset and Eddie. And of course, Eddie brought back a lot of memories to a lot of people, because one of the members of that famous cowboy film, all of a sudden my brain has gone dead. But anyway, he was a teacher there. Hoss Cartwright. And he was there, I got there 2 years after he departed. So anyway, I don't know if you remember that television show where he was one of the cowboys, and he eventually went back to Texas and was killed in an automobile wreck in Texas, and I thought that was sad, because he was, the principal told me, a parent came in and was very upset over the teaching of mathematics in this guy's class. And Hoss Cartwright, if you ever have seen him on television, was a big man. And principal said, would you like to go down and talk to him? You bet I do. I've got to get this anger out of my system, and I'm fed up the way this class is being taught. And he went down there and he said, knocked on the door, and Hoss Cartwright came over. Dan Blocker was his real name. And they said, Mr. Blocker, this gentleman wants to discuss something with you. And Dan looked down at the guy, and the guy said, "Oh, Mr. Blocker, it's so nice to meet you, and I just wanted to come up and tell you what a wonderful job you're doing teaching this class." He didn't want to say anything out of the ordinary to Mr. Blocker, because Mr. Blocker was quite tall. I want to get back to the foundation now. This is the season basically for giving, and fill us in on how they can donate to the foundation, and your telephone number in case they need to reach you.
Sure. Well, actually, and this is a great week for that, because on Tuesday the nation and the world celebrated Giving Tuesday, where people often will share what they can with nonprofit organizations and charitable needs everywhere. And as one of the things that we did this week on that day is we announced the recipients of some Christmas mini grants that we awarded to 16 nonprofit organizations here in our area. Just small grants to help out with some of the expenses that come about this time of year, because more things come about as they're trying to work with their clients and trying to help spread the joy of the Christmas season. So we're very excited that we were able to do that, and so we're in the midst of that right now. People who are interested in giving to the foundation are always welcome to. We have, not only can they give to the foundation itself, but we also have many funds set up to help the organizations here in town, or causes of that nature, scholarships, everything you can imagine. If they're interested, they're welcome to give us a call. We're at 887-1131. And we also have a great online resource now for people at our website, which is carlsbadfoundation.org. And so we can, people are welcome to donate any way that they wish. They can come by and see us. They can send in donations. They can go and they can actually make donations online from anywhere in the world. And so, but our main thing is to be able to help donors who want to make sure that their charitable giving is going to things that they care about, that we can help them do that. And a lot of those donations, like I said, not only can benefit things that are a need right now, but also things that are going to be a need for years into the future.
Now, do they have the right to say they would like their particular check for scholarships or for people, needy people? They can do anything they want.
Absolutely. They can specify which fund they want to based on what the fund is used for.
Oh, yes.
And if they want to call and ask us questions and say, I'm interested in these areas, do you have funds that support that? You know, we can help them in any way we can.
Oh, that's wonderful. So the future looks pretty good for the Carlsbad Foundation.
It sure does.
And I know that it got started very well with Mr. Mills and then with Jim and now you, and it couldn't be in better hands. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
And, so when I fall on my face someday down in the gutter, somebody could send in $1 or $2 to help me get out, right?
I'm sure, but we'll pick you up first.
Well, so do we need to say anything else? Did we forget anything?
You know, I thank you for having me. This has been fun, and I wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Well, you tell your Filipino ancestors and your Irish ancestors that I send my love to them this season, okay?
Thank you very much. Will do.
Like so, thanks a million.
Okay, thank you.
And on behalf of all of us here, ladies and gentlemen, goodbye and good luck.